Today is March 11th, 2026. Welcome back to Nolmago channel. First up, from OpenAI itself, news has honed OpenAI's new instruction hierarchy for safer LLMs. This news comes from the OpenAI blog and was released on March 10th, 2026. OpenAI has announced something called the Instruction Hierarchy Challenge, or IH Challenge, and it's all about teaching frontier language models how to decide which instructions to listen to and which to ignore. In plain English, instead of models blindly following whatever the latest prompt says, IH Challenge trains them to prioritize trusted instructions. That means following system and developer instructions over random user prompts, staying aligned with safety policies even when the user tries to jailbreak or do prompt injection, and being more steerable by organizations that need consistent, policy-abiding behavior. OpenAI says this improves instruction hierarchy, safety, steerability, and resistance to prompt injection attacks. Those are the tricks where someone hides malicious instructions in long documents, web pages, or tool outputs to hijack the model. Why this matters? As AI gets embedded into agents, tools, and critical workflows, you don't want the model to treat some random PDF or user message as more important than its core rules. IH Challenge is basically about giving models a spine so they can say no when they're supposed to. Keep that in mind, because agents, execution, and who's really in control are going to be recurring themes in today's stories. News #2. Google's Gemini agents go to the Pentagon. Next, a huge move in military AI. This news comes from Engadget Tech News and was released on March 10th, 2026. According to Engadget, citing Bloomberg, Google is rolling out Gemini-powered AI agents across the U.S. Department of Defense, potentially reaching more than 3 million civilian and military employees. Here's what's happening. These Gemini agents will initially run on unclassified networks. Talks are already underway to bring them onto classified and even top-secret systems, according to Emil Michael, the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. There are 8 pre-built agents to start with, doing things like summarizing meeting notes, building budgets, and checking proposed actions against the U.S. National Defense Strategy. On top of that, Google VP Jim Kelly said in a blog post that Defense Department personnel can build custom agents using natural language so anyone in the DoD can spin up their own AI helpers. The Pentagon's already been experimenting with AI chatbots. Since December, 1.2 million DoD employees have used a chatbot via the GenAI Mill portal for unclassified work, with 40 million prompts and over 4 million documents uploaded. The catch? Training is lagging far behind adoption. Only about 26,000 people have completed formal AI training so far, but future sessions are fully booked, so there's clearly massive demand. Now, the politics. This expansion comes after a standoff with Anthropic, which refused to remove guardrails related to domestic surveillance and autonomous weapons. Because of that, the Pentagon labeled Anthropic a supply chain risk, and Anthropic is now fighting that in court. Around 900 Google employees and 100 OpenAI employees have signed an open letter asking their companies to keep similar guardrails in place. Meanwhile, Google quietly changed its AI principles in early February, softening restrictions around exactly these kinds of military uses. The Department of Defense has also signed deals with OpenAI and xAI for more restricted networks. And if this sounds familiar, it's because Google already faced internal backlash back in 2018 over Project Maven, which used AI to analyze drone footage. That contract wasn't renewed, but Google has clearly loosened its stance on military work since then. So we're watching, in real time, a huge shift, from Never Again Project Maven to Gemini agents for millions of Pentagon employees. Which brings us directly to the next story. News #3. Anthropic sues the U.S. government over blacklisting. This news comes from Ars Technica's AI coverage and was released on March 10th, 2026. Ars Technica reports that Anthropic is suing the U.S. government after being effectively blacklisted by the Pentagon. According to Anthropic, they were punished because they refused to support autonomous weapons systems and mass domestic surveillance. The White House, according to Ars Technica's reporting, has gone as far as calling Anthropic radical left and woke for its stance on these issues. Anthropic's argument is basically, we set safety guardrails against certain uses, like autonomous weapons and broad mass surveillance. The Pentagon didn't like those limits. Instead of negotiating, the government labeled us a supply chain risk, which Anthropic says is arbitrary and retaliatory. This is a major test case. Can an AI company say no to specific military uses and not be punished economically or politically for it? If you connect this to the previous story, you can see a split emerging in the AI industry. Some companies, like Google, are adjusting their principles to work more deeply with the military. Others, like Anthropic, are doubling down on strict guardrails, even at the cost of government contracts. And all of this is happening while frontier models are becoming more agentic, more integrated, and more powerful. News #4. China warns again about OpenClaw security risks. Now let's jump to China. This news comes from the South China Morning Post's tech section and was released on March 10, 2026. SCMP reports that China's cybersecurity agency has issued a second warning about an AI agent called OpenClaw, even as local governments and tech companies rush to adopt it. Here's the picture. OpenClaw is an AI agent framework that's become extremely popular across China. There's a nationwide frenzy to deploy it. Major Chinese cloud providers are promoting easy deployment packages to ride the hype wave, but the National Computer Network Emergency Response Technical Team says improper installation and usage are creating severe security risks. While SCMP's article snippet doesn't go into all the technical details, warnings like this usually involve poorly configured agents with excessive permissions, insecure connections to internal systems and data, lack of proper authentication or sandboxing, and people deploying powerful agents without understanding the attack surface. So, in China, just like in the US, we're seeing a rush to deploy AI agents everywhere, followed by government agencies trying to slam on the brakes and say, wait, this might not be secure. Put that next to OpenAI's IH challenge, and you can see the pattern. We're moving from AI as chat to AI as agents that can act, and everyone is scrambling to figure out how to keep those agents safe and under control. News #5. Fake AI content about the Iran war floods X. Let's turn to misinformation, which is being supercharged by AI. This news comes from Wired's Artificial Intelligence section and was released on March 10, 2026. Wired reports that fake AI-generated content about the Iran war is rampant on X, formerly Twitter, and that X's own Grok AI is making things worse. Key points from Wired's reporting. Grok is failing to reliably verify video footage from the Iran conflict. Instead of debunking fakes, it's sometimes amplifying them. Grok has even been sharing its own AI-generated images about the war, further muddying the information environment. So, you have a social platform flooded with synthetic content whose in-house AI assistant is supposed to help users figure out what's real, but instead is participating in the confusion. This story is actually so important that Wired has it front and center, and it's worth highlighting that the same article and summary you just heard is also listed twice in our input. That's not a mistake in the news, it's a sign of how central this issue is becoming. When you connect this to the Pentagon and OpenClaw stories, you see the stakes. On one side, AI agents are being deployed into military, government, and infrastructure contexts. On the other, the public information ecosystem is increasingly shaped and polluted by AI, and the question becomes, who can we trust, and how do we build systems that don't go off the rails? News #6. NVIDIA Jetson brings open models and generative AI to the edge. Now let's talk hardware and open models. This news comes from the NVIDIA blog and was released on March 10, 2026. NVIDIA's latest blog post highlights how open models are driving an AI boom at the edge, powered by their Jetson platform. The article uses a vivid example. The CAT 306CR mini excavator, a roughly 8-ton machine, small enough to fit inside a standard shipping container, often used in tight job sites like urban basements or narrow trenches. NVIDIA's point is, edge devices like the Jetson modules are now powerful enough to run generative and agentic AI models directly on machines like this excavator. That means you can have local AI doing perception, planning, and even natural language interaction with operators, without needing a constant cloud connection. Open models from the wider ecosystem can be optimized and deployed on these edge platforms, enabling a wave of robotics, industrial, and IoT applications. This ties directly into today's theme, agents that don't just talk, but act, whether that's controlling a robot arm, assisting a defense analyst, or managing a construction vehicle. News #7. How NVIDIA builds open data for AI. Staying with NVIDIA, but from a different angle. This news comes from the Hugging Face blog and was released on March 10, 2026. The Hugging Face blog features a piece titled How NVIDIA Builds Open Data for AI, where NVIDIA walks through how they're constructing open datasets for training AI models. While the summary we have is blank, the context from Hugging Face and NVIDIA's broader work suggests a few key themes: curating high-quality, openly available datasets for training and evaluation, documenting data sources, licenses, and intended uses to improve transparency, and collaborating with the open-source community on benchmarks and data pipelines. Why this matters? As models and agents become more capable, the conversation is shifting from just open models to open data pipelines. If you don't know what your models were trained on, or you can't share that process, it's much harder to build trust, reproduce results, or audit for bias and misuse. So, in one day's news cycle, NVIDIA is both talking about deploying AI at the edge with Jetson and explaining how they're approaching open data through Hugging Face. That's a pretty clear signal about where the ecosystem is moving. Not just proprietary closed black boxes, but shared infrastructure for data and deployment. News #height. GitHub. AI as text is over. Execution is the new interface. Next up, a big conceptual shift from GitHub. This news comes from the GitHub blog and was released on March 10, 2026. GitHub's blog post is titled, "The Era of AI as Text is Over. Execution is the New Interface." Here's the core idea. We're moving beyond simple prompt-in, text-out chatbots. AI is becoming something you program, orchestrate, and embed deeply into applications. The GitHub Copilot SDK is their answer to this. It lets developers build agentic workflows directly inside their apps. So instead of just asking Copilot, "Write me a function," you might give an AI agent access to your codebase, issue tracker, and CI pipeline. Let it open pull requests, run tests, or even coordinate multi-step tasks, and treat AI not as a chat window, but as a programmable collaborator that can execute actions. This fits perfectly with OpenAI's IH challenge and China's OpenClaw warnings. Once AI can act, not just talk, you need robust instruction hierarchies, security models, and guardrails. Execution is powerful, but it raises the stakes. News #9. NVIDIA's Nemotron-Terminal. Data pipelines for terminal agents. Now back to NVIDIA again, but this time via independent coverage. This news comes from MarkTech Post AI News and was released on March 10th, 2026. MarkTech Post reports that NVIDIA AI has released Nemotron-Terminal, a systematic data engineering pipeline designed specifically for scaling large language model terminal agents. Here's what that means. There's a race to build autonomous agents that can operate in terminal and command line environments. Think models like Claude Code or Codex CLI. These agents need massive, high-quality datasets of real command line interactions, errors, fixes, and workflows. Until now, most of the training strategies and data mixtures for these agents have been secret, forcing researchers to reinvent the wheel with expensive, ad hoc data collection. Nemotron-Terminal aims to fix that by providing a structured pipeline for collecting, cleaning, and organizing terminal interaction data, a more transparent way to build and scale CLI agents, and a foundation that others in the community can build on, instead of guessing what works. Connect this with the GitHub Copilot SDK story. We're seeing serious infrastructure being built for AI that executes, not just AI that chats. And if you remember the Pentagon's Gemini agents and China's OpenClaw, you can see why better training data and pipelines for agents are so important. These systems will be making real changes to real systems. News #0. Back to X and the Iran war fakes. Finally, looping back to misinformation, because it really deserves emphasis. Again, this news comes from Wired's Artificial Intelligence section and was released on March 10th, 2026. The article, "Fake AI Content About the Iran War is All Over X," details how X's Grok assistant is struggling to reliably verify conflict footage, sometimes sharing AI-generated images as if they were real, and contributing to an environment where it's increasingly hard for ordinary users to distinguish fact from fiction. The article underlines a brutal reality. The same agentic, generative technologies that are powering Pentagon tools, OpenClaw deployments, Jetson robots, and Copilot workflows are also being weaponized in the information space. And when the platform's own AI can't reliably tell what's real, trust erodes fast. Conclusion. One big picture. So, putting all of this together, from the OpenAI blog on March 10th, we have IH Challenge, teaching models to follow a hierarchy of trusted instructions crucial for safe agents. From Engadget Tech News on March 10th, we have Google scaling Gemini agents across the Pentagon, even as employee pushback and ethics debates continue. From Ars Technica AI on March 10th, we have Anthropic suing the US government over being blacklisted for refusing to support autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. From the South China Morning Post tech section on March 10th, we have China's cybersecurity agency warning again about the security risks of the OpenClaw agent amid a deployment frenzy. From Wired's artificial intelligence coverage on March 10th, we have X's Grok failing to keep up with AI-generated misinformation during the Iran war, and in some cases making it worse. From the NVIDIA blog on March 10th, we see open models and edge hardware, like Jetson, bringing generative AI into physical machines and robots. From the Hugging Face blog on March 10th, we get a look at how NVIDIA is building open data pipelines to support this ecosystem. From the GitHub blog on March 10th, we hear that AI as text is over, and execution is the new interface, via the Copilot SDK and agentic workflows. From MarkTech Post AI News on March 10th, NVIDIA's Nemotron-Terminal offers a transparent data pipeline for building powerful terminal agents. And from Wired AI, again on March 10th, we're reminded that AI-generated war content is already destabilizing how we understand reality on social platforms. The common thread: AI is no longer just answering questions. It's executing code, operating robots, advising militaries, running on edge devices, and shaping public perception during conflicts. That makes safety, security, and governance, things like instruction hierarchy, guardrails, open data, and transparent pipelines, not nice to have, but absolutely critical. If you want to dive deeper, you can check out the original sources, OpenAI blog for the IH Challenge, Engadget Tech News for the Pentagon Gemini rollout, Ars Technica AI for Anthropic's lawsuit. South China Morning Post Tech for China's OpenClaw warnings. Wired artificial intelligence for the Iran war misinformation on X. The NVIDIA blog and Hugging Face blog for Jetson and Open Data. The GitHub blog for the Copilot SDK and execution as interface. Mark Tech Post AI news for Nemotron-Terminal. I'll link all of those in the video description so you can read the full articles yourself. If you found this roundup helpful, consider subscribing for more daily AI news breakdowns, and let me know in the comments which of these stories you think will have the biggest long-term impact: military agents, open source pipelines, or the misinformation crisis. You're watching Nemotron channel. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.